Hey, pizza mozzarella, what's up? It's a culture detective here investigating your favorite mangas. And today I'm going to do a very special video because I've never done something like this on this channel before, but today I'm going to be reviewing manga. And that's right, I'll be reviewing JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 7 Steel Ball Run Volumes 1 to 6. So right now in my hands I have 5 mangas, and that's because Volume 1 is not on me right now. I finished reading Volume 1 before I left the US, and it's now in the US, and I'm not in the USA right now. So I have Volumes 2 to 6, which are the mangas that I recently finished reading. And also, it's important to note that these mangas are like the first mangas I've ever like read all the way. I mean, sure, I've read a few chapters in Attack on Titan and Chainsaw Man. Like I read Chainsaw Man chapter 1 before the anime came out, just out of curiosity, but I didn't read all the way. It's just like a little light read. But Steel Ball Run is something that I'm planning to read all the way from chapter 1 to the final chapter. And so it's very much considered to be, I guess, the first time I've ever read a manga from front to back. So I cannot rate this and review this as a manga because I'm not a manga expert. However, I can review this as a JoJo story, which is what I'm going to do. So instead of commenting on, you know, how well drawn the panels and the art styles are, I don't think I'm that familiar with those things. I'm just gonna comment on the story itself. So it's not on my hands right now, but let's start off with JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Part 7 Steel Ball Run Volume 1, September 25th, 1890, San Diego Beach. So Volume 1 of Steel Ball Run starts off with September 25th, 1890, which is a very specific date, and it starts with San Diego Beach. Now, by the way, if you don't know this, I'm going to spoil the entire series for you. This is not a spoiler-free review or anything like that. I'm actually going to get down to the nitty-gritty details. Now, Hirohiko Araki, one of the most revered manga artists of all times, made JoJo. There's JoJo the original, there's JoJo 2, and then there's JoJo 3 Stardust Crusaders, JoJo 4 Diamond is Unbreakable, JoJo 5 Vento Oreo aka Golden Wind, and JoJo 6 Stone Free. After the ending, not Stone Free, Stone Ocean. After Stone Ocean, the world has basically ended, and we, okay, my laptop is screaming again for no reason. Thank you for doing that. So after Stone Ocean, the world has basically ended, the universe is over, and we have a new universe where we have JoJo, but they are not the JoJos we know and love anymore. They are JoJos without the powers. They don't have stands anymore. Jolene is now Irene, and Jotaro is now Q-Taro or something like that. So it seems like a reasonable way to end off the entire series. Then I think in the early 2000s, or I think mid 2000s, Araki announced a new series, Steel Ball Run, and it's not marketed as a JoJo part. It's marketed as a different series, so nobody really knew that it's actually JoJo Part 7. Nobody actually knew. And in fact, I think maybe Araki even started writing Steel Ball Run not as a JoJo part. Maybe he started off Steel Ball Run thinking that it's going to be something different. But maybe Araki just realized that at the end of the day, all his stories end up being JoJo because he's just Araki. He's just like that. He's just built like that. So it's actually really interesting for a JoJo part to start off not feeling like JoJo. We have the first scene in the manga, which I think is a really strong starter. We have Sandman, who is a Native American. Also, goddamn, Native American representation in manga? Hell yes. We have Sandman running away from his tribe and then disappearing into some sand dunes, and that's basically the opening scene. But it's really interesting because it's not very JoJo-like. It sets off a mysterious tone, and then we have the actual opening where we are introduced to the Steel Ball Run race, where essentially we have Steven Steele and his wife, who I believe is like a miner or something. I'm not like miner as in like coal miner, like minor, like she's underaged. So very bad, but I guess it's kind of common for that era, that period of time. So this is a Steel Ball Run race where thousands upon thousands of horse racers race across America from San Diego to New York, which is crazy, but it's actually happening. And this race is separated into 9 stages. And right off the bat, knowing that this race is separated into 9 stages makes the story a lot more interesting. This is what I would like to call the Goblet of Fire effect, where in Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, we are told that there are 3 games. So even if game 1 is boring, you sort of anticipate, oh, I know there will be a game 2 and there will be a game 3 and it's going to be interesting. It basically sectionized the story into 3 parts. But whereas in Steel Ball Run, we have the story being sectioned into 9 parts. So that's really cool. Now we have Gyro being introduced as the main character. Gyro is the character on the cover of the manga, and also Gyro is being treated as the main character. Gyro has more screen time in Volume 1 than any other character. Gyro Zeppeli. And Gyro is awesome. He's like a lone ranger. He's a cowboy, but from Italy, because of course Araki likes his Italy. And yeah, and Gyro knows a spin. So again, my theory is that JoJo didn't start off as, like, Steel Ball Run didn't start off as JoJo. It started off as a different action-adventure fighting story with the spin being the main thing, which is really interesting because Hamon is basically like chi, and stand is of course like, you know, punchy ghosts, and spin seems really silly because it's just spinning balls. It's just spinning steel balls. But somehow Gyro's able to use a spin to do literally anything he wants, which is really cool. Then we're introduced to Johnny, which of course we have the amazing panel. Johnny Joestar's first appearance looks like this, and it's hilarious. And Johnny Joestar is a really interesting JoJo because he's morally ambiguous, not in a sense that he's like an anti-hero, but he's just not a very nice guy. And he's also crippled, which makes him insanely weak. Also, all the previous JoJos start off with stands already, like Jotaro, Josuke, Giorno, Jolene. In the beginning of the story, they already have the stands. They don't like discover their stands or whatever. Johnny didn't get his stand until like volume 4, until volume 3 or volume 4. So Johnny's just a crippled guy. Like, he's so weak, and that makes the story so much more interesting because now the fights fully rely on the brains. It's not about whatever magical abilities he has, and he's crippled too, so he can't walk or run or jump. It's fully brains. It's fully outsmarting. It fully relies on that, and it makes the story even more challenging. So that's really cool. And I believe the first moment where Steel Ball Run is actually turning into JoJo is when the character of Enya is mentioned. So we are also introduced to Poco Loco, who is a guy who's very lucky. He met a fortune teller by the name of Enya, who is, by the way, from Stardust Crusaders, the old woman in Stardust Crusaders. And he's just lucky. That's his power. He's just lucky. And so thus begins Volume 1. Volume 1, I took like 4 months reading Volume 1 because A, I'm not a huge reader. B, throughout the first half of 2023, I was really busy with everything in life, so obviously I didn't have a lot of time to read it. It wasn't that interesting either. It didn't start off that interesting, but I think it's a pretty strong start. Now on to Volume 2. This is Volume 2, and its first stage, 15,000 meters. So this entire book is 15,000 meters. And I swear to God. So we have the first stage, which is the first 15,000 meters, which is very short. Because the whole thing, the entire Volume 2, nobody, not a single character hopped off their horse. This entire freaking thing, by the way, this entire thing, it's one non-stop horse race. None of the characters hopped off their horse or anything. It's just one continuous ride from San Diego to the border between California and Arizona. And it's just one nonstop race. So it's a little bit tedious to go through the manga. It's a little bit tedious because, again, it's just one nonstop horse race. And another thing is there are no fights. It's just speed. It's just a matter of speed. So it's characters trying to outsmart each other by taking shortcuts and training their horse to do things. Gyro deciding to run into the forest, which is very dense and bad for horse. Riding horses in the forest, no. But, you know, some characters like ran after him, and then there's another moment where Diego decides to, let me try to find it. There's another moment where Diego's outsmarting Gyro by, where is it? I think it's around here. So we have Diego Brando, who is Dio, if you can't tell by his hat. And he's trying to outsmart Gyro by taking advantage of the fact that Gyro's horse runs left every 7 seconds. It's very specific. It's hilarious. And then another really cool moment, probably my favorite moment in the entire story, is actually when Araki decided to analyze why Sandman is so fast, and and it's actually like a lesson on anatomy, like the heel and the leg. So the center of gravity is right here, and then friction, like that's how you run fast. It's like it's all science, man. It's all about outsmarting. It's so cool. So it's just one continuous race, but again, it is a little tedious because there are no fights. It's all one race. This entire volume 2 is all one race. But I think what keeps this from being completely boring is the fact that it feels like there are multiple main characters. Gyro is obviously the main character. Even though in here you can see Johnny, Gyro's in the forefront. Gyro's the main character here. And Gyro's treated as the main character. He has a mission and he needs to win. Johnny, however, is a JoJo. So, of course he would win, right? Or no, because we also have Poco Loco, who literally ended up in the top 5 using the power of luck. Where is he? Yeah, we also have Poco Loco, and Poco Loco is just one of those characters where, he's very lucky, and it's almost like Chekhov's gun. Like Araki wrote this character for subverting expectations. Maybe both Gyro and Johnny would lose, and Poco Loco would win simply because of luck. And it's like Poco Loco may actually win, but then no, because we also have the character of Sandman, who, obviously, because he showed up in the first scene of the entire Steel Ball run, and he's running instead of riding horses, which makes him feel like one of those prodigy characters, like he's a miracle that he's gonna win. So we have 4 characters who seems like they're going to win as well, and it's at this point it's like a guessing game that who would win. I'm actually already spoiled on who's going to win the game, but it's still interesting to see how all of these characters are trying to outsmart each other. And then of course we have Dio, but obviously he's kind of an antagonist in the story. Moving on to volume 3, second stage, Arizona Desert Crossing. Look at this cover. Look at the colors, the blue, the pink, the sunflowers. Holy cow, this is a work of art. Volume 3 is where it finally gets insanely interesting, because volumes 1 and 2 is stage 1. 3 to 5 is stage 2. Essentially what happens is you need to cross the Arizona desert. Pretty self-explanatory. You even see a map. So right off the bat, stage 1, very short. You can pretty much finish stage 1 in minutes. In less than an hour. Stage 2, however, way longer. So stage 1 is almost like a practice round, is like a warm-up. Stage 2 is the real deal, and it takes at least a week to finish stage 2. So now it's not just a game of speed, it's a game of survival, and that makes everything way more interesting. And also this time around we have villains. So stage 1 is over, and there's this whole deal with Gyro being disqualified, which makes me root for his character more, obviously. Also look at Araki drawing himself, Araki self-portrait. But also there's a murder mystery, so that's pretty cool. And then finally we have our first battle, and it's a very short battle. It's a very small fight, but it is a fight, and it's Mrs. Robinson, who looks very JoJo, honestly. And Mrs. Robinson, essentially he can like use insects to hit cactus, which then the cactus would shoot splinters at people, and it's not a stand power. He's just built like that. The first actual stand fight is with the Boom Boom family, which is right here. And it's not 1, not 2, but 3 characters, a dad and 2 sons. And that is L.A. Boom Boom, Andre Boom Boom, and Benjamin Boom Boom, which are all references to Andre 3000, which is really cool. Finally, Andre 3000 gets to be a part of JoJo. And it's very interesting because all 3 of them can control magnetism. And if you're having a bit of a deja vu moment, it's true, because back in Stardust Crusaders, there's already a stand called Bastet, and its ability is to control magnets. But Boom Boom, the Boom Boom family is like a more updated version of that, so it's like, what if I rewrite that again, using the same idea, using the same concept of magnets, but like even better, but written even better. Also, another thing is, like, at this point in time in Araki's career, stands are no longer like punchy ghosts or Pokemons. It's no longer like, you don't even need a person-shaped entity and say, oh, that's my stand. And that stand does things. And if you hurt the stand, you hurt the stand user. It no longer works like that. Stands in Steel Ball Run are basically like abilities. Like, you don't even need the stand anymore. These characters have superpowers. That's all you need to know. But yeah, it's a very crazy, gross fight. The Boom Boom family, it's a very, very crazy fight. And it gets even more interesting when it turned into a 3-way battle between Mountain Tim, the Boom Boom family, and Johnny plus Gyro, because they've teamed up, I guess. Hold on, where is it? So the father of the Boom Boom family, which I believe is L.A. Boom Boom, or is it Benjamin Boom Boom? I think it's Benjamin Boom Boom, decided to frame Johnny as the serial killer, and so that Mountain Tim would know, so that Mountain Tim would go after Johnny and Gyro, so that all 3 of them would be together, and then they can create a magnetic field to crush all 3 of them together and kill them all, because why not? And this 3-way fight is really interesting, but the 3-way fight ended really fast because Mountain Tim was basically immediately able to realize that he's being tricked for some reason. But yeah, that's basically it for Volume 3. Now we have Volume 4, Gyro Zeppelin's Mission, which, again, really cool cover. And this one gets insanely interesting. I finished this in less than 2 weeks, which I know a lot of people finish a whole volume in like a few hours. I can't do that. But we have Mountain Tim and Johnny and Gyro teaming up to fight the Boom Boom family. And it's interesting because at that point, Araki never actually mentioned what are the name of these stands. He didn't mention them until the novella JoJo Veller came out, and turns out the Boom Boom family stands are called Tomb of the Boom, and Mountain Tim's stand is Oh Lonesome Me. But before that reveal, all we know is he has the rope stand, where he can his body can turn into a rope, I guess, you know. We have the Oye Komova fight, right? Oye Komova looks like this. And the fight starts off really interesting because they're at a resting place, a resting point, like a motel, like a good old Western, you know. It appears that Araki has really watched a lot of Westerns to really finish this part. But we have Oye Komova, who's an assassin who wants to kill Gyro. And it starts off really interesting because his stand is Walmart Killer Queen. I hate to say this, but it starts off interesting. But when I find out that his ability is just explosions, it's not going to live up to the same hype as Killer Queen. So it's actually not that interesting a fight. But it did start off really cool. And I really like the whole concept of like clocks growing on things. Like it can grow on skin, it can grow on like smoke, it could grow on water, and it can grow on bees, and if the pin drops out it explodes. I think it's really cool. I really like Oye Komova's design. I like the idea that Mountain Tim might be dead and we have no idea if he's actually dead or not. Even in volumes 5 and 6 we still don't know if he's dead. Also, Poco Logo completely disappears from the story, so he's not so lucky at this point, I guess. But still a cool fight, I guess, but a bit of a low point, unfortunately. And then I guess we have yeah, the fight goes on. The fight goes on and on. Terrorists from far, far away. Again, the clocks are growing on the bees. The clocks are growing on the bees. And the way the fight ended is a little confusing. Maybe it's just a translation error, but Johnny used Tusk to grab the web, like a spider webs, and like Oye Komova tried to pull those things back, but Oye Komova ended up pulling himself forward to Gyro, and now Gyro's in the same distance to throw steel balls, which is a little bit of a stretch. Now we have volume 5, which is The President's Conspiracy, or All the President's Men. Love this cover. Love this white cover. So refreshing, by the way. This one's definitely probably my favorite volume so far, because this thing is just whack. This volume is whack. First off, we have some conspiracy stuff now, which is really cool. Yeah, and also the chapters get longer and longer. So now this volume only has 4 chapters. Interlude, Tusk 1, Tusk 2, Tusk 3. So it's all Tusk. But right off the bat, we are introduced to Funny Valentine, which is a fat, charismatic president of the United States. And it's real interesting. I guess it's finally revealed that he is the ultimate antagonist, but even so, it is such an interesting antagonist because I guess Diavolo is a mob boss, so obviously he's bad. Yoshikage Kira is a serial killer, so he's bad, of course. And then we have, you know, Pucci, Dio, they're the same bunch, so they're all evil. But now we have the president? They're fighting the president now? What? Araki really didn't hold back this time around, and he really managed to create some really interesting characters. But I think what makes this volume awesome is the fight with Wired, which is really interesting. So it started off with Gyro disappearing, and then his horse disappearing, and then it's just his saddle, and then it's just like kind of confusing. Araki's really good at starting off stand fights in the strangest way possible, so you don't really know what's actually going on. Turns out, even though they start disappearing, and it seems like a very crazy, weird stand, turns out the secret to that stand is a hook. This hook. So yeah, Wired is called Wired because it's a hook on a wire. And it's essentially like Beach Boys, but I like this one even more than Beach Boys. They're a little different. Beach Boys like hook into your body. This one basically hooks the entire person and pull it out and pull it to another spot. And this fight is surprisingly intense because, you know, for the most part it's Johnny trying to hide from Wired, and Gyro's disappeared, so Johnny's completely alone. And then at the end, when you think it's already over, Gyro, the pork pie hat kid, tries to pull Johnny through Gyro. So essentially he's trying to rip Gyro apart. And there's one moment where like Johnny's actually like cutting through Gyro and he's crying and screaming, and it's like, oh my god, it's so emotionally intense for a stand fight. But of course they won, and Tusk gets fully activated. We have Tusk Act 1, a cute little pink thing that came out of Johnny's left arm, which is really cool. Another cool thing I want to mention though is that these characters don't just develop stands by chance. They develop stands because of the Devil's Palm. So it's actually explained. So this manga is not going to throw some excuse like, oh, they all just magically have stands because, you know, magic. But, you know, they actually have stands because of the Devil's Palm and also because of the Holy Corpse, which I will talk about in Volume 6. Volume 6, Scary Monsters. Yeah, so I'm running out of source space. I'm going to be fast. Scary Monsters is very straightforward, very thin for a novel, very light, and the entire freaking volume, I kid you not. Scary Monsters Chapter 1, Scary Monsters Chapter 2, Scary Monsters Chapter 3. That's it. So the entire Scary Monsters is just Scary Monsters. And the entire freaking thing is just their fight with Diego Brando, who turns into a dinosaur. And I wish I wasn't spoiled that Scary Monsters is a dinosaur, because imagine Steel Ball Run Dio, who seems like a minor side character. You'd think, oh, what if it's like the world? What if they have to fight the world? And then Dio just turns into a dinosaur, and that's his stand? That's so cool. That's so ridiculous as well. That's so whack as well. And also, stage 3 finally begins, and immediately begins. Like, they don't take a rest or anything. No, stage 3 begins, and stage 3 is basically goes from the Arizona desert to Monument Hill to Canyon City, which is in Colorado. Again, it's really cool that Araki really did his research. You know, to Canyon City, and then to this church, the Trinity Church, and then like this beach, Trinity Beach. I forgot, but Araki really did his research, and that's really cool. I also like how these 9 stages are evenly spread. So, you know, this is stage 3, and stage 3 is probably going to go on for a while. And then we have the Holy Corpse, which makes everything even more interesting and high stakes. The Holy Corpse is essentially the corpse of Jesus Christ. And not only is now the story sectioned into 9 stages, but now we have like 9 corpse bits of Jesus Christ. We have his left arm, his right arm, his eyeballs, his brain, his heart. And now the characters are also racing to get these body parts. And these body parts also grant these characters, I guess, stand abilities. And it's another really cool way to explain how stands happen. It's not just a stand arrow now, it's corpse bits, which is really cool. I guess if there's one thing that I have a little bit of a gripe with, is that I don't know how did Johnny immediately figure out, like at the end of the Wired fight, he immediately figures out, oh, you know, so they're after the corpse bits, and they're after the, you know, this is actually the whole point of the race. It's a little convenient, but I'll let that slide. So overall, Steel Ball Run is pretty fun so far. There are moments where it's kind of slows down, and there are moments that's not that interesting, But I think overall, this is already more interesting than any JoJo previously so far. So I look forward to all the next volumes.